Well, social media is social because of people. People make it social. That's the biggest distinction between social media and broadcast media. So when broadcast media was a one-way vehicle for people or institutions mainly to send a message out to passive recipients. We sat on our couches and watched TV. Social media connects people directly to one another in conversations. Those conversations can be video. YouTube is actually a conversation, or on blogs, or on Twitter, or in chat rooms. But what makes it social is the ability of anybody to participate in conversations and have them go two ways. Oh, absolutely. There's no question about it. Even if you think of social media in its most basic form, which would be email. Most everybody has an email account. Most everybody has a cell phone. They're very inexpensive tools that are ubiquitous here and around the world. The individual platforms, so is the question is Facebook here to stay? Well, it'd be hard for 500 million people to find somewhere else to have the same conversation with all of their content. But I don't know if all of those individual channels will stay. But the kind of digital technology that enables large numbers of people to connect with one another and share information is absolutely here to stay. So we're at a very interesting point in time. 3-4 years ago, when I came out with my first book, Momentum, there was a great fear and reluctance on the part of organizational leaders, and the question to me was, do I really have to do this? I really don't want to. Don't make me. More so the last 2 years has been an acceptance that it's here to stay, an understanding that the episodes like raising money for Haiti after the earthquake last January are so important and so powerful that they're here to stay. And now the question from organizational leaders is, how do we do this? Where do we dip our toes in? Where do we get some traction? How much time and effort is this going to take? So it's a whole new set of questions. But first, in order to engage with social media, nonprofits really have to overcome a set of fears that they have that are real about losing control of the message and the messenger, about letting go of plans, opening themselves up, maybe not looking as professional as they feel they once did. And organizations really need to wrestle with those fears. You can't skip that step and jump right to the doing without wrestling with what does this mean for us as an institution, as people, to begin to engage and take down the walls by using social media. So social capital is the connective tissue between people on land. That's what Robert Putnam was writing about in Bowling Alone, the loss of social capital in communities. When people aren't connecting with one another in person, they're not building trust and they're not building reciprocity, which is I do something for my neighbor with the expectation that at some point in time that neighbor is going to do something for me. Social capital online happens in much easier ways. So you reconnect with your childhood friends on Facebook, and that's built on the memory of all of those relationships that you had and the trust that you had with them. And you build new relationships online as well. Social media is so important because it's very inexpensive to build social capital online, and it lasts over time. What we're seeing is these incidents of people connecting with one another, sort of bouncing around against one another on all of these channels, lasts over time. Even if people don't do something today for your organization, maybe they're not responding to that request for donation, they're there. You know where they are. You've built some trust with them. They can be accessed and activated in the future for your cause. I love social network architecture. Do you remember Tinker Toys as a kid, right? It had the round part and then the sticks that connected them to one another. What's so important right now in social change is that the round part, the nodes, which are organizations or people, don't have to be, for social change, formal organizations. Just the individuals who can create a movement overnight using a blog, using Twitter, using Facebook, can raise money, can galvanize a protest for something. We call these people free agents in our book. And Amanda Rose, who helped to create Twestival overnight, of thousands of people around the world raising money for charity water, at no cost anywhere. There are no bricks and mortar. There are no institutions that are needed. I think in terms of social change, those free agents are so important, and organizations need to understand that they're one node in these large networks that are other organizations and free agents, and they have to learn how to interact as part of that ecosystem. Network nonprofits have lots of access points. They make it very easy for outsiders to get in and insiders to get out. They are simple in what they do and how they explain it to the world. They're transparent, easy to see what they do. They understand and work within the networks, and they are very good at using social media. No, and I really want to make this point very strongly, that when people hear Beth Cantor, my co-author, and I talk about social media, sometimes they assume that we're saying it replaces on-land ways of working, which isn't true at all. Online is augmenting what's happening on land. So online fundraising is always going to be another tool for organizations to use in support of their large donor cultivation in person that has to happen, or their in-person events, which are very important. So take, for instance, Twestival, which was a global fundraiser created on Twitter, but the event actually happened in 202 cities around the world. So it started online and then transitioned on land. We have seen the beginning of some great online fundraising, some of it on causes on Facebook, others what the Red Cross did with text messaging after Haiti, but it's just the birth. We're in the infancy of looking at this. It's not going away, but we don't quite know where it's going to be, say, 2 years from now. So I think we're at a very interesting juncture now, in that we're not seeing the explosion of new tools that we were 2 or 3 years ago. It's not a tool a day happening right now. So we are seeing a core of social media tools such as Facebook. I don't think MySpace is actually going away. Twitter, blogs that are here to stay. And the question now for nonprofits isn't which tool should I be using, it's what conversation do I want to have, and that will drive them to a particular tool. That may work for a month, it may work for 2 years, there's really no way to tell. But the hesitation organizations have of, should I bother trying to create a Facebook presence now? I don't know if Facebook is going to stay. I don't think that's a relevant conversation anymore. Facebook is not going away. It still may not be the tool for your organization. That can only be realized by testing them. But that core, that critical mass of tools that we all know and everyone is dipping their toes in are here to stay. So once groups have a conversation about who they are, what we call in the book, talking about a way of being first before a way of doing. So organizations really need to have that conversation of, are we transparent, are we simple, and how do we move ourselves forward in those ways. And then they can look to find an experiment, if they really are just dipping their toes in, to get started. Maybe it's one fundraiser this year that they're going to start organizing on Twitter instead of in a closed room as a staff. Maybe it's that they are developing a strategic plan this year and they're going to put the draft plan on their blog and ask for comment and have a conversation about it. So we want to create a discrete experiment this year where we can practice working in open and transparent and collective ways, and then try it again. Over time, we're going to see it extend, the use of social media extend throughout organizations, not just in communications or fundraising, but in programs and services as well, and maybe even into the boardroom too.